2019 is almost over. There's just a couple of days left for the year to finish, and this is probably going to be the last video I make for this year. And I want to talk a little bit about something important. This channel is predominantly about photography and videography, but I do want to talk about something important that I think that will help a lot of people that might be watching this. People who know me for a couple of years know that I am a grossly positive person. Like it gets to the point where it becomes so annoying that I'm always being optimistic and trying to say that everything's gonna be all right, or things are gonna be good. And I usually blurt this out when people are really at their lowest, even when they are saying that they're depressed or when they're really sad. I'm like, you know what, just get over it. You have this many things that are happening that are positively affecting your life. Just forget about the negativity. And I kept doing that to a point where it became insensitive. But 2019 is a year that changed, and it kind of changed for the worse, because I started becoming this really angry, always annoyed, borderline depressed. Even though I don't like using that word, I turned into that, and I thought that this was a result of certain things that happened during this year. For example, during 2019, I experienced my first loss financially. Like, I invested some money in something other than myself, I thought that would bring in returns, but it didn't go through. So I kind of experienced like a huge financial loss for the first time. And I also experienced one of my family members getting into a very physically abusive relationship, and I couldn't really do anything about it. And I felt helpless for the first time. So I thought it was all of these things that made me constantly upset or negative all the time. I gave this a lot of thought. I gave my whole shift, because I realized it a couple of months back that I have shifted. I'm not that positive person. It's always thinking that things can be fixed and we just need to keep grinding and grinding and grinding, because that's always who I've been. Whether it's whether I've been pursuing music, where everybody said that it's a shit career, you're not gonna get far, it didn't really faze me. I kept playing and playing and playing and practicing, and even with the whole photography thing. And that kind of personality of being positive really pushed me through, and 2019 is when it just went flat. And I boiled it down to a single piece of advice that a lot of people were giving me. Multiple people were just reinforcing this throughout the year, and the piece of advice was, people don't always think like you. Now, inherently, the piece of advice is good, like learning to accept the fact that people around you might be thinking differently, and then they have different points of views, and you need to be empathetic and sympathetic to people around you. That's inherently good advice. But what happened to me with that advice is it switched that persistence or that positivity that I always bring, the annoying optimism that I always push through. It made me tone that down a bit, because as I was taking in this advice that people were different, and then I can't always impose my attitudes or my opinions on them, I started toning these things down. And the problem was not the fact that I was toning these things down. The problem was that I was toning these things down even when there weren't people around me. This piece of advice was projected towards a scenario where I'd be around people. So the more and more that the people are reinforcing this by telling me this, by verbally communicating this fact to me, I started switching my personal time around as well. The fact that I didn't really care about what other people thought, and the fact that I want to do what I want to do always, and the fact that I'm a rebellious person is what drove me to pick up photography, to pick up videography, to pick up a camera, to be persistently hardworking. All of those things were driven by the fact that I didn't give two bleeps about what other people thought. The reason someone is successful, or the reason someone is good at something, is because they think differently. and they, you know, either they're persistent or they're grossly optimistic, and that's what usually drives people to, you know, constantly, you know, work hard at something and keep trying over and over again, even though people are failing. And that, for me, that was being grossly optimistic, you know, like even though things weren't working out in my life, I was like, you know what, I have so many things that I have to be grateful for. I have you know, a wonderful house to live in, I have, you know, like amazing parents, so that's what I kept telling myself. But after I, you know, like established that people aren't always like me, or they don't think like me, this advice was seeping into my private life and my alone time, which was not healthy at all. Because once this happened, I was constantly contemplating about, you know what, why are people behaving this way, or why is this happening to me, and it took me a while to realize that and to just turn it off again. The number one takeaway for me from this video is take advice and apply it to the scenario that it was given to you in, and isolate it to that scenario only. Because once you take advice and just, you know, take a blanket statement and just cover every aspect of your life with that blanket, things might go a little wrong. What's up here is basically what carries you through an entire year. And 2019 was a year that I literally it wasn't a good year, but 2020 is around the corner, and I am so psyched about it, and I'm so glad that I did put some thought into this, and I wanted to make a video about this whole scenario multiple times, but I just took a breather and just wanted to think about it, what is going on, without just blabbering out my thoughts. For everybody who has been watching my videos constantly and who has constantly been coming back, I want to say a huge thank you, and I really appreciate everybody that came through and just constantly come back and just, you know, watch my videos. So thank you. And for anybody who's new, hey, subscribe, man. Yeah, I hope all of this made sense. I'm gonna get back to more cinematography, photography content. Ooh, that's the first time I said content in my channel, because people talk about it so many, like people talk about content all the time. I was like, don't say the word content, don't say the word content, and damn it, I said the word content. But anyways, I'm glad you guys watched the video so far. Subscribe if you haven't already, and if there's somebody who had a bad year, or if there's somebody that you know who had a bad 2019, send them this video, and you know, maybe I can share my story with them and, you know, pick them up, I guess. And what do you guys think about like videos like this? Let me know. Send me a DM for the guys who are close to me. Just pop a message and tell me if this is something that makes sense, and I'll see you guys in the next video.